I've talked about Bolshevism in history, how the Bolsheviks learned from the German socialists about socialist strategy on three fronts, about how the revolution was made, about what happened to Bolshevism after the revolution. And what I want to do to sum up is say a little bit about what Bolshevism could mean today. There's a common view that I think that Bolshevism is something that's from the distant past, and it's a very controlled and limited and hierarchical form of politics. What I want to argue here is that Bolshevism today, a large part of it is a struggle for democracy, for political life, against more fashionable, apparently more modern forms of politics, which are in fact very bureaucratic. So, what do I mean by these other forms of politics? In the first place, there's NGO politics, which I've talked about. NGO politics became a big factor on the left with the stifling of political life in the labour movement, which happened both partly as a result of us being pushed back after the defeat of the miners in 1985, and as a result of the conscious efforts of the Blair machine. How do these NGOs operate? Well, an NGO basically will consist of an office, which is funded by a big nominal membership, most of which just gives a bit of money, or may give a bit of money to support the office. The office will also get some money maybe from a philanthropic foundation or from a trade union or something like that. And inside that office you will have a staff of people who do politics as a career. Now, they do politics as a career because they've chosen to do that. They've chosen to do left-wing politics as a career rather than being arms dealers or financial speculators or whatever. They're genuinely left-wing people, but their conception of politics is this is something you get a job in. This is a career. And the activity that results is that office will run a website, maybe produce some literature, maybe organise the odd demonstration. It will give recommendations to vote on something. And the role of the membership is basically to provide the money and maybe to share some of the stuff on social media, maybe to follow recommendations on how to vote on something, occasionally to go on a demonstration. But the politics is constructed by the office. And that is not the way the Bolsheviks operated even during the Civil War. When certainly they did have offices and they did have an administrative machine. That is not how they operated. For them, politics wasn't a job that somebody did, went to an office to do. Politics was life. Politics was what a Bolshevik did wherever she or he was. At work, in their neighbourhood, on the front in the Red Army, that was politics. They had offices, they had people who produced their literature and so on, but that was all to support and inform that activity in life. Another form of politics you see on the left today is the Morning Star. Now, the interesting thing about Morning Star is surprisingly influential today. If you want to see what the Morning Star does, you don't look for your local branch of the Communist Party of Britain and see what they're doing on the streets or in the workplaces. You won't see them. What you will see is when you go to big events, or onto demonstrations, or when you go onto the web and look at what people are sharing on social media, you will see the Morning Star. You will see, on demonstrations, for example, you will see the Morning Star, and it won't be sold by activists going out trying to actively engage you. It will be given out because a trade union, that is the leadership of a trade union, has paid for that issue of the Morning Star for that day. So they get an office to do politics, and then that is transmitted to a more or less passive membership or base of support. Right, as Bolshevism, in contrast to that, is politics as part of life. It's politics is something you do every day, which requires people in offices, people producing leaflets, people doing websites, people doing newspapers. But the sharp edge of it is always politics in life, in your workplace, in your street, among your friends, among your neighbours. And so Bolshevism today is a fight for that conception of politics, which is necessarily a democratic conception of politics, because it's politics of which the core is arguments, discussions, conversations, changing ideas, making socialists, making democrats. And the other thing about it is that it's also a struggle for democratic norms in the labour movement. One of the terrible things the Blair era did with us is transforming the internal life of the labour movement right down to local Labour Party ward or union branch level, with the message that debates, rules of procedure, motions, all that is boring. And what you want instead are training events, seminars, inspirational speakers and so on, which sounds maybe more fashionable, but is a very bureaucratic conception of politics. As against that, Bolshevism is the democratic form of socialist politics for today.